during the week, I started to sail the boat single-handed.
Yeah.
And I found out that I really, really loved being the captain.
Welcome to the Passages from the Heart podcast, a podcast made by an everyday sailor for everyday sailors. We talk everything from day sailing to racing to cruising to camping out on your boat and everything in between. It's time now to raise the sails. Ahoy, sailors! I've got a spectacular show for you today, featuring Deborah Hammett, author of a book, Young Salt at 60, Becoming Better Than Retired, which earlier this summer achieved #1 in sailing narratives on Amazon's bestseller list. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to this amazing solo sailor who shares her story of how she went from being an elementary school teacher for 27 years to becoming a school principal, and then, after retiring from education, discovered an entirely new lifestyle as a liveaboard cruiser, solo sailor, and a best-selling author. In my interview with Deborah, we dive deep into how she found her passion for sailing and how she deals with challenging situations that go hand in hand with the cruising lifestyle. We also talk about what it's like to cruise with a partner versus sailing solo, and sailing solo as a woman. Deborah also shares strategies for keeping up with boat maintenance, finding confidence as a solo sailor, how staying healthy and strong is imperative for sailors, especially as we age. Plus, boatloads more. Here is my interview with Deborah Hammett.
Hi.
Hi, Cheel. How are you?
Oh, I'm jealous. You're like you've got the real deal. I've just got a picture.
Yeah, this is the real deal. It's like, oh, there goes the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. I've been living on my boat.
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't wait to dive into all of that. And I'm really just absolutely tickled that you were willing to come on my little podcast. So welcome to the Passages from the
Oh,
Heart
I'm thrilled.
podcast.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I am honored to be here.
Well, when I saw the episode with you on Paul Trammell's show, The Offshore Sailing and Cruising, and I read the little blurb that he always puts with every guest that he has, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the one that I've been waiting for. And I say that because well, we're close in age, and so I'm dying to hear, although I'm not going to give everything away because of what I heard already on Paul's show, but I may ask you to do a little bit of repeating some
Sure.
stories. But yeah, I just you know, I'll be honest, a lot of the sailing channels that are out there tend to be coming from folks who are younger than we are,
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
and that's fine. It's great, but I think the sort of model that we had growing up, I think is very different from how things are from, say, from millennials and Gen Zers and whatever else comes after that. Um, you hear a lot about they're not going to wait till they get to be our age to start living their
Right.
dream.
Right.
So when I saw that, you did work as a principal, I believe,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is really cool. But that you did all of that, and then you decided to get into sailing and living on board. And I guess that can you sort of tell us how that all came to be, from
Sure.
being a principal to sitting where you are now on your lovely vessel on this lovely day I can see there.
Yeah. So, I was a teacher for a very long time. I was a teacher for 27 years before I became an assistant principal and then a principal. And I taught a number of different grades in elementary school. And I really wanted to make a bigger difference. And I thought that by being a principal, I would be able to do that. And when I became a principal, I really found out pretty quickly that there are obstacles for change in any organization, but in schools in particular, given that there is a very strong teachers union. And, I didn't realize that the teachers union worked the way it did because I didn't really pay much attention to it when I was a teacher. I just was so busy focused on my students. I didn't even go to the union meetings. I wasn't one of those people that was consumed with, 5 minutes of extra bus duty. And when I became a principal, I was really bogged down with a lot of that and a lot of policy issues that were driven by the school committee, and the school committees were, on the school committees were people who had specific agendas, and it was just the political aspects of it just wore me down and wore me out, and I was done. My kids had gotten through private colleges in Boston, so I was finished with their tuition, support, and I was ready to retire. So I retired, and I went traveling, and it was before COVID. And I started a little tutoring business online, and I was tutoring, about 20 hours a week, people all over the world. A lot of professional, non-native English speakers who were professionals in American companies and were going into supervisory or team leadership roles, and they needed to have presentation skills and leadership skills in English. So I kind of found a niche there, and was working a lot online, about 20 hours a week online. And I was traveling in Southeast Asia when COVID hit. And then I had to come back to the United States because my visa had expired. And my passport was about to expire. I needed to renew that passport also. And I did some research, and I found out that the Dominican Republic had an overstay sort of a policy with their visas where you could stay as long as you want, but you just have to pay the overstay tax when you leave. And it was a minimal amount of money. So I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm going to go to the Dominican Republic. So I went to the Dominican Republic, and I found a great community there. And there weren't any Americans there. There were some French expats, German expats, very few Americans, except for this one guy, and he happened to be from Vermont, and he happened to completely sweep me off my feet. So that's kind of a lot in there, but that's kind of how I ended up in Vermont. And Vermont is, how I went from being a principal to ending up in Vermont to starting to find out about sailing. Believe it or not, I lived on Martha's Vineyard Island for 35 years, teaching school, raising my kids, the whole thing, and never sailed.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, never sailed until I got to Lake Champlain in Vermont,
Wow.
of all places. So
Wow.
I met this guy. We went to Vermont, and he had a business there and things going on with houses and stuff. And we decided to take sailing lessons. We had been watching some YouTube channels, and they were couples who had, left their corporate land life behind and had gone on to move into a catamaran, and they were sailing the world. And we thought that was fantastic. So we were addicted to the Winds, the O'Kellys, sailing Good, Bad, Ugly. And we thought that was really amazing. So we took some lessons on dinghy boats in Lake Champlain, and we took some sailing lessons, some legit sailing lessons in the Abacos. We got our ASA certifications in the Abacos and a week-long course on a catamaran. And then we decided to buy a boat. So we bought this boat, Mavia, on Lake Champlain, and learned to sail it on Lake Champlain.
And what kind of boat is she again?
She is a 36-foot Jeanneau.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year is she?
2011.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
So when,
But
go ahead. I'm sorry. You keep
yeah,
going.
but she was just like a new boat because the owners had been in Canada and for 2 summers they hadn't been able to cross because of COVID. And in Vermont, the season is so short that they really had her on the hard for 9 months every year. She only was in the water for 3 months, and she had 300 engine hours when we bought her. So,
Yeah, that's minimal, huh?
yeah, and no saltwater corrosion or anything like that. So, um, we got a really good deal and we learned to sail on Lake Champlain. So
Yeah.
it was kind of terrifying. The insurance company wouldn't insure us unless a captain came with us and signed off that we were capable of,
Yeah.
and everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what happened. And we sailed for the summer. And we decided that this boat wasn't really equipped enough to go south that winter. Um, and maybe not big enough to live on. So my partner and I went back to the Dominican Republic and spent the winter there. But meanwhile, he was thinking, well, maybe we'll buy a catamaran. And I said, okay, you buy the catamaran. I'm out of money. And he bought a catamaran in Florida. And we sailed that catamaran from Fort Lauderdale up to the Chesapeake at the end of that winter. And we put the catamaran in the Chesapeake and then came back to Lake Champlain, where we were going to sail Mavia for the summer and maybe sell her, and then go back and sail south to the Caribbean and everything the following winter. A lot of moving parts there, I know. But we sailed offshore as much as we could. In fact, we had to sail offshore quite a bit in that catamaran because the mast was too high for the bridges on the Intercoastal Waterway. So we had to go around Cape Hatteras, and you know, we really learned a lot about channels and inlets and anchorages and bridges and
Yeah,
a lot of
for
stuff.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I remember you saying at some point in time, there came a point in time, to use the word again, that you decided to just venture on your own and stick with the Jeanneau, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
so, I remember right, you're in Martha's Vineyard right now, but
Right.
didn't you just sail up there by yourself from
Yes.
somewhere down south? Was it the Bahamas,
So
maybe?
yeah. So my partner and I were planning on sailing Mavia on Lake Champlain, but he got really into his land life in Vermont again. And
Oh,
I was staying on Lake Champlain during the week. So he would go, to the house and to his business and all that stuff and he got kind of sucked back into land life.
oh, yeah.
And I wasn't going to go with him. I said, I'll stay on the boat.
Yeah,
On the boat during the week and you go deal with your stuff because I was working online.
yeah,
And during the week I started to sail the boat single-handed.
yeah,
And I found out that I really, really loved being the captain. I
yeah,
really, the two of us together on that catamaran, we were both terrified half the time because we were so new.
yeah,
And it was really difficult to communicate and to, just be with one person all day, every day for months on end. It was
yeah,
difficult. I don't know how couples do it, really, to be honest with you.
yeah.
Tough.
I think that that's part of, I mean, like I mentioned in some of the messaging that we had done, some of the books that I have read about cruising couples, it's definitely, um, they grapple with those sorts of issues. Anywhere from just being in each other's face too much to whose job is it to do what, and like the vision of labor sorts of things.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, for me and my, as I call him, the first mate, we haven't done extended cruising like what you've done. But even with just what we do, there's definitely, I feel like there have already become, how shall I say, certain roles that he always assumes and that I always assume. And I'm not sure if it's because of comfort or by habit or what. I to be honest, I'm sort of exploring these sorts of feelings myself with respect to uh, having a desire for more. I want to use the word independence, but I don't mean to say it like I don't want to sail with him, because I really love
Right.
sailing with him, and sharing in that together is really important to me, at least. I hope it is to him.
Right.
But I'm really struggling, Deborah, with the independence part with solo sailing because I lack that confidence. So I would really love to hear how, I mean, you said you started sailing on Lake Champlain by yourself, and you mean, I guess learn by doing that. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Because
Well, it was terrifying for sure. Um, but the dock hands, I told them that I was thinking about doing it, sailing on my own. And the dock hands were good to us. We were heavy tippers. We needed dock hands.
yeah, yeah,
And we needed them right there when we were coming in. And
yep,
they were really, really helpful. And I remember practicing leaving the dock alone and getting to the point where I told the dock hands, come to help me off the dock, but don't touch anything.
yeah,
Just be there in case I need you. And because I had
right,
set up the lines so that they were just looped around the dock cleats and then they were cleated back onto my boat cleats so that I could pull them off from on board.
yeah, okay,
And so I set up the lines like that. And then of course I pulled off the ones that were slack. And then there would just be that one last line that I would pull off as I was leaving the dock.
yep,
Um, and I was able to do that while the boat was reversing out of the dock. Getting the hang of the boat reversing with the prop walk and
yeah,
everything, that was
yeah,
really, really tough. And
yep,
you know what? You know what the secret to that is, I think? It's just to take it slow.
yeah,
So if you put the boat in reverse before you really want to move anywhere and you center the wheel, it kind of gets the prop walk out of the system without doing anything crazy. And then
mm,
and then once there's some way on, then
hmm,
you can ramp up the speed of the reverse.
yeah,
You can push up the throttle a little bit and then turn the wheel, more significantly in the direction you want to go
yeah.
because it's doing something. The rudder has some control now.
Yeah, there's some water moving across it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I told you this, but well, maybe it's been more 3 or 4 weeks ago, we worked with, I hired a captain
Uh-huh.
to come up to Lake Superior to work with the first mate and I with our new boat, new to us at least. And it has an inboard engine and all the things, bigger boats have,
Uh-huh.
systems. And you know what? He just, this captain, it was actually Jerome Rand of Sailing into Oblivion, who
Oh,
I
yeah.
love to death. He's such a
Uh-huh.
wonderful guy, a great teacher, speaking of teaching.
Uh-huh.
And he recognized my, one of the things he said is he's most sailors that he works with as consultants, as we were with him, he said, you can just see it on their face that they're really dreading having to go back to the dock and dock the boat,
Yeah.
and I think he just totally picked up on my like anxiety vibes about
Yeah. Oh,
leaving the
yeah.
dock and coming back to the dock.
Mhm.
Sailing, I'm totally cool. Like I
Yeah.
don't feel
Yep.
scared or intimidated or I mean that's
Yeah.
but with the engine and all that stuff, oh my God. And he just kept making me do it over and over. And I feel like I got a little bit of the hang of it, but I'll tell you what, because I don't see my boat as frequently, like you get to be on yours every day. My boat, I don't see her for more than, 3 to 4 days every month.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not getting to practice
Uh-huh.
those skills. So it's kind of like one step forward, two steps back for me a little bit. And it gets a
Yeah.
little frustrating, I have to admit. I get mad at myself. Like, why can't I
Yeah.
do this? Why do I feel like I'm always, you know, beating myself up
Oh
about
man.
it? It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's, I'm a little bit, I tell you what, a little bit struggling with the mental part of all of that. It's kind
Yeah.
of, it's wearing on me a little bit.
It's very difficult. It really is. I mean, I describe myself as the Lucille Ball of the seas because
I love that.
you know how like she used to get into these situations and she'd be like, ah! She would
Yeah.
cry. I mean,
Yeah.
that's happened to me so many times where I just get myself into something and I have no idea how I'm going to get out of it. And I'm just like freaking out.
Yeah.
Um, one situation when I was single-handing on Lake Champlain, I went to furl in the head sail and it wouldn't budge. I
Oh
couldn't
no.
get it to furl in at all. And what I realized is that I thought that that there was it had gotten fouled inside the furler in the spool,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
fishing line gets fouled.
Yep.
And that had happened because when I pulled out the sail, I hadn't let it go. I hadn't held on and let it go gradually back into the furler,
Uh-huh.
you know. So so it had gotten fouled. And so I went scrambling up on the deck. Okay, I've got the engine running. I've got the head sail flapping all over.
Oh no.
I'm pointing straight into the wind and I'm scrambling up onto the deck to see if I can go and unfoul this furler spool, which of course I couldn't do. And so now I'm really in a panic. My heart rate is up. I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I get the mainsail down and I'm like, I'm gonna have to go into the fuel dock with my head sail flapping. So, and I'm thinking, oh my God, well, at least it's a fuel dock where, it's a straightaway for a long way,
Yeah.
rather than
Yep.
my itty bitty slip and I don't have to like turn into it.
Yeah.
And so I get to the fuel dock and um and it's funny, there was a guy there from the sailing school next door, and he was an instructor from the sailing school. And they tied me up and got me to I calmed down and they said, "Okay, well, why didn't you just release the halyard?"
Oh no.
And I was like, "Oh my God, of course I should have just
Yeah.
released the halyard." And
Isn't it true or yeah.
I couldn't get there because of this sheer terror that
Yeah.
was going on, and
Yep. Yeah, I think
yeah,
that that's one of the things I think Jerome kind of tried to impart upon us is to not let things escalate to the point like panic mode sort of, so to
yeah,
speak. And it's weird because I will tell you sometimes, like not so much on this boat because this isn't a new boat for us, but our other boats that we have, because we have two other sailboats, but they're smaller. You know, like 2 summers ago we were sailing, beautiful day. I don't know, it was maybe 10 knots of wind. We were in a starboard tack. My husband was at the helm. I was sort of trimming the furling head sail, and my husband all of a sudden he says, "Oh, something's loose up there." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Look up there." And so I look up at the mast, and the upper stay on the starboard side, upper shroud is just loose, dangling.
oh
And
wow,
I'm like, "Oh, hey." What are we going to do?
wow,
And it's weird, like, because looking back, it's like I could say, what are we going to do? But looking back, I just started doing things. So
right,
I kind of, in some ways, gave myself a little bit afterwards a pat on the back because I didn't panic and
yeah,
I did what I thought I should do, which is get the
yeah,
sails down as soon as possible. Although
yep,
it turns out I think I did it the wrong way. I think that you shouldn't turn into the wind. You're supposed to turn, I should have gone I should have turned away from the wind, but
To drop the sails?
yeah, that's what somebody, because
Oh, because of the way the shroud was.
we were on yeah, it was a starboard shroud and we were on a starboard tack.
Oh,
So,
right. Okay.
I should have gone,
You wanted the load on your port.
yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again,
You wanted to be you needed to be on a port tack. You
yeah,
should have been on a port
I
tack.
should have been on a port tack, and instead I
Right.
just was like, just I think I had him come into the wind like you would do
Mhm.
normally, right?
Right.
If to drop your
Right.
sails. And so I was thinking in that mode. Unfortunately, nothing else happened. Like we didn't
Right.
lose the rig. But my point is that, uh I could have it could have been a disaster, but fortunately it wasn't. And as a result of that experience, now I know, okay, next time around, if this happens again, knock on wood, hopefully it won't, we're going to go away from the wind.
Right.
It depends, right?
Right.
But at any rate, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't panic.
Yeah.
And afterwards I do remember feeling like, okay, we got through that. But, I do have to say though, I do think that after, I grew up sailing. And I spent basically from like 6 years of age until my early 20s sailing on my family sailboat, which was almost, not quite 27 foot, a Swedish built boat.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was in high school, I could take that boat out by myself. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, what happened to that girl? Because like that
Yeah.
boat had an inboard engine. It had all
Yeah.
the things again that a bigger boat would have. And
Yep.
I felt so confident. So, I think, were you though also saying when you talked to Paul something about how you heard someone say women on the VHF somewhere in the Bahamas, women have no business being solo sailors, or
Oh, yeah,
was that
yeah.
you?
Yeah. It was a dicey situation because there was a storm and the wind had clocked around 180 degrees. And it was in Georgetown in the Exumas where there are about 400 boats, mostly sailboats in the anchorage
Oh my gosh. Wow.
and everybody living aboard. So the good part was that everybody's on their boat.
Yeah.
But there was only one other single-handed female down there, and she was dragging. And she dragged all the way onto the beach in a previous storm 2 weeks
Oh no.
earlier. So here she is again on the VHF, and she's dragging again. And I was in a different situation. I had been anchored in the same place for 2 weeks, and I was perfectly fine. I was not dragging. But the boats that had come in after me and put down their anchors were convinced that I was dragging because when the wind turned, I was closer to them. And
Yeah.
the reason I was closer to them is because I had more chain out than they did.
Yeah.
The
More scope
reason
out.
I
Yeah.
had more scope out than they did was because they had people behind them. So they
Mm-hmm.
weren't going to be able to let out more scope.
Right. But you got there
So
first.
And I had gotten there first, but they had miscalculated all of that.
Yeah.
They never asked me how much chain I had out. They never. So when the wind shifted, they were convinced I was dragging and I was trying to communicate with them. I actually had to get in my dinghy and go over because the guy, he wouldn't, the man in the couple on a sailboat behind me, they wouldn't talk to me on the radio. All they said to me on
Really?
the radio was, "You're dragging. You need to do something. Your boat is dragging." And so I had to get in my dinghy and go over and explain to them, I'm not dragging. My anchor alarm is not going off. I have the same distance from my anchor that I have had for the past 2 weeks. It's that I have more scope out than you do.
Right.
Well, they got all in a huff, but they left.
Yeah.
And then this other woman, the other female solo sailor, was dragging again, and she announced on
Uh-huh.
the radio, "I'm dragging again." And that's when the wife of the guy that wouldn't talk to me, the wife gets on and says, "These solo female sailors don't know what the heck they're doing." So
Oh, that's unbelievable.
yeah,
I was actually really shocked when you said that because
yeah,
I have, you know, I always get the impression because I've followed so many different sailors and people that have been in that part of neck of the woods, if you will. And they always make it sound like everybody's so like cool and like supportive and sailors helping
Well,
sailors and
yeah,
you know,
but as this is high stakes when there's a storm in an anchor
yeah,
and there's
true.
so many boats and there's so many things that could, go
But all the
wrong.
more reason to work together and not to be like the guy was ignoring you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Well, he
that's
just, he saw it his way and that's the only way he could see it. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, getting back to the confidence thing, like I said, for me, it's really fantastic to connect with you because I have in my mind a vision of the sailor that I want to be versus the sailor that I am today. And so in with you, like learning by doing, you started out. I'm curious too, because you said Lake Champlain. Did you ever come across Tanya Abbey, speaking of solo female sailors?
No, no. I had heard that there are several solo female sailors on Lake Champlain. And I really didn't do a heck of a lot of socializing up there. Um,
Mm,
it's funny, I was at a marina and I would say only about 70% of the boats in the marina, and they were mostly sailboats,
yeah,
only about 70% of them ever went anywhere.
yeah,
They just sat in the marina. They got launched for the season, and people would come and they would, putter around on their boats,
yeah,
but not a lot of in and out on sailboats. The
yeah,
boats that got the most use were the motorboats.
yeah, yep. I think that I think people get, well, first of all, in my experience too, looking back to the 70s and the 80s and early 90s, it seems to me there was a plethora more of help available for sailors, rigging people, just people who knew about sailboats. But when I
Yeah.
started sailing again 6 years ago, the marina where I am here in the Midwest, there's hardly any sailboats anymore. When I was a kid, there was
Oh,
probably 40, maybe, which was a
wow.
lot for a little in Midwest inland lake. And
Hmm.
now they're basically like what you said. They just sit on the dock. You don't really see them out in the water very much. And there are hardly any there. There is nobody at the marina who works on sailboats whatsoever. There's a guy who's across the
Um,
street who supposedly
yeah.
you can
Ooh.
ask for help. And I didn't, we didn't get on very well. So I think that people get intimidated, and not just
Yeah.
women. I mean, men
Yeah.
too. I mean, there's a lot to
A lot of
know.
ego
Oh
involved,
yeah. But
pride, and
yeah. And I know even my dad said to me, because he grew up sailing, and like I said, I grew up sailing, learned from him. And when I told him I was getting a sailboat, he's like, "Oh, that's way too much work," And I'm thinking, because he has a power boat now.
uh-huh.
But after I got out of college, he and my stepmom, they bought a Toshiba 40, and they
Uh-huh.
they sailed from Lake Waukegan, Illinois, basically in Lake Michigan, down to the Caribbean, and they cruised for like a year and a half or so.
Uh-huh.
But he just thinks it's too much work, and I think that's sort of the
Yeah.
people have that sort of mind frame
A
about
lot of work. It
sailboats.
is a lot of work.
Well, it is
Uh,
because you got to keep on top of stuff, but you do have to
yeah.
do that with power boats too, to some extent, right? I've had them as well.
Yeah.
You know,
But the
boats
thing
are
about
upkeep.
when you live on your boat, you can do something every day.
Yeah.
There's a little something you can do every day. Today, I was working on some fiberglass issue. I've got an anchor light issue. Tomorrow night, I have somebody coming over to help me with my anchor light, and an actual electrician friend on Martha's Vineyard that I happen to have,
Oh,
not a
wow.
sailor, not a sailor, but willing to, look at what's going on with my anchor light.
Yeah.
And I can cook him dinner, and he might bring his son, who is also an electrician, and the son could maybe go up the mast, you know, and replace it because I have an extra.
Yeah.
But so there's issues like that are happening on a daily basis, really. Every day
Yeah.
there's something that needs to be tweaked and fixed. And I've got dinghy painter lines that get chafed, and I need to replace those. And just endless. Everywhere I look on my boat, I can see like there's certain things that are on
Good.
the list. But if I do something, I have a rule. And well, when I was with my partner on the catamaran, we came up with this rule of every day we have three things that we have to do. We have to clean something, we have to fix something, and we have to get along with each other.
Wow. Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
Well, that's
and
good.
yeah, and if you just are in the rhythm of, cleaning something, whether it be the teak or the stainless or the non-skid, and fixing something, because there's always a list of things that need to be fixed. If you can just get one thing off the list every
Yeah.
day, it's a wonderful thing.
I think that's important too, because, most of the time, I think those people that you were talking about, the boats never leaving the dock probably so much, it's that I think people have in their mind perhaps that it's, well, a place to get away, a place to relax, a place to, I don't know, not do work, you
Right,
know, but,
right.
but I mean, that's the romantic part of sailing or yachting or boating, whatever you want to
Yeah,
call it. I mean, I fully admit, like, I am a romantic through and through, and uh, I wish that it could be more like that in some ways. I think in my heart of hearts, I feel like it is on the inside, but externally speaking, there are, like you said, things that always need tending to, and that's something that's super important because we're talking about safety here. You're out on the
yeah,
water,
exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
and just about anything.
Yeah.
I just was reading. Speaking of Paul, one of the books he just released was the one with Tapio Lettinen on when Tapio's boat sank in the 2022 Golden Globe race, and I am right at the part where the boat just sank, and it's just there's so much you have to keep track of. So like for you,
Yeah.
you talk about the list. I mean, how
Yeah.
do you kind of keep I mean, you literally do, you have a list, and how do you,
Oh yeah, of course
like,
I
your
do have a
logbook?
yeah, but I have, I try to stay on top of everything, and I have major issues that are priority issues.
Mm.
Like for example, my VHF radio I can hear right now, but I can't transmit
Oh.
on the one that's hardwired into the nav station.
Mm.
I have a handheld battery operated one that can transmit up to 2 miles, and I have Starlink. So
Yeah,
I'm in a
okay.
real pickle and I'm offshore. I can use Starlink to call on the phone. I can call the Coast Guard. But, but it's what I can't do is call a cargo ship that's 5 miles away. So if
Yeah.
I want to call that cargo ship 5 miles away, I'm out of luck unless I have that hardwired, high powered VHF transmitter. So
Mm-hmm.
it is on my list before I go south again, which won't be till October. I'm going
Mm,
to get
okay.
that resolved. So when the electricians come over, tomorrow night, I'm going to cook them dinner and,
Yeah,
help me with that
that's
one
nice.
too, because that could potentially be a top of the mast problem also.
Yeah. So when
So
you
right now
think,
I have those two problems, the anchor light and that, and but everything else is pretty good. And I plan to get hauled out twice a year. So I get
mhm.
hauled out in North Carolina on my way down because I
Oh
visit
yeah.
my mom. My mom lives in North Carolina, so when I go there, dry storage is cheaper than a slip. So I have them haul the boat out, and there are great mechanics at this marina I found down there, and they're
Mm,
cheaper than New England.
yep.
So I tend to take care of a lot of business when I'm on my way down and when I'm on my way back up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
North Carolina, that's where Jerome Brand, where he keeps, well, he has kept his boat at I want to say, is it the Neuse River?
Yeah, News River.
I think
Yeah,
it was at a marina somewhere off of that
yeah,
area.
probably Oriental somewhere.
It's a little north of that. I think it was a
Uh-huh.
little north west of there.
I gotta talk to him.
Yeah.
I want to
He's
pick
a
the brain.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
a fabulous person. I mean,
Uh-huh.
just knows so much, and just he's one of those people that really gets you motivated and uh he always like jokes that he's like the Tony Robbins of sailing, because he's kind of
Well,
like a motivational
I
type
know
person,
that
but
he interviewed Oliver Widger before
oh,
Oliver did the big crossing.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yep.
then he interviewed him again after Oliver had made it to Hawaii.
Now,
And
his boat is the big sister of my boat.
oh, really?
Yeah. His boat is
Wow.
a compact 35 and mine's a compact 25.
Oh, wow,
It's
that's
it's
cool.
it's so funny. I always browse. I'm nuts about sailboats. I'm always looking at sailboats for sale constantly. And somebody
Uh,
just listed a compact 35 in Oregon. And it said, you can be like sailing with Phoenix. Grab your cat. And this is the same.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
right.
it was so funny that they
Why
actually said
not?
that in their
Yeah,
ad.
why not? I would do that too if I was advertising that boat.
Yeah. Well, sadly, very, very sadly, after 51 years, the company closed in April. There were two, it was a dad that founded the company, two brothers that ran it afterwards, and one of the brothers, who was one of my mentors, passed away earlier this year in February, I think, and then they just decided to
Oh,
just
that's too bad.
it's really sad because one of the things that was great about one of the reasons why I love compacts is because the customer service that they had, parts, if you had a
Oh,
question,
really? Oh,
they were
that's
amazing.
great. That's
But
great.
we don't have it now because now they
Well, but you
closed.
know what? The parts exist. You can find them, do you have a forum, like a
Oh
Facebook
yeah.
group and
Yeah.
all that,
Hmm.
you can access things. And frankly, when you're in the Bahamas, you don't have access to any kind of like place where you can buy parts for anything.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
totally dependent on other sailors. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I had to bum a raw water pump belt off another sailor in the Bahamas before it was right before I did my crossing to back to Florida. And
Mm-hmm.
I did the crossing with a raw water pump belt that was the wrong size, but
Oh,
it worked. And it was
yeah.
sort of I hope it can get me all the way there
Yeah.
situation. And it did.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it was it was pretty scary. I had to leave at 3:30 in the morning. So I'm
Oh,
leaving in the moonlight. Luckily
yeah.
there was moonlight. And I was headed across from Grand Bahama to Fort Pierce, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily there were a lot of other boats that were headed in the same direction. So
Okay.
yeah. So, and we could see each other all on AIS, and some of the boats, some of the captains I had spoken to before. So we kind
Mm-hmm.
of knew each other and could kind of keep an eye on each other and check in by radio and whatnot. So that
So
was,
okay. Do you use that Noon site website quite a bit then? Are you on that one as well? Because I've heard that's a big
which
cruising
one?
sort of Noon site. It's
Noon
and
site. I've heard of it, but no, I haven't really used that. I,
okay.
and No Foreign Land. I know that a lot of people use No Foreign Land as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Uh,
that one. Okay.
but I look at marine traffic.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And I can see who's around.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what's the way it's so cool because we are a tribe, we are a community, we're
Yeah.
migrating, north and south. And I had some people over for dinner last week, and the woman is somebody that I had known, loosely known from my neighborhood here on
Mm-hmm.
Brenda's Vineyard, and she grew up here in the summers, and I kind of knew she was a sailor, but then when I started sailing big time, she and I started talking together, and she bought herself a Gemini sailboat this winter, and
Oh.
we just happened to bump into each other on the ICW in Florida. I was passing her, and I radioed her to say, I'm going to pass you on your port. Is it okay if I pass you on your port? And she said, Deborah? And, and
Wow.
she recognized the name Mavia, and I didn't see her boat name.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
and so yeah, we connected there. And then I bumped into her again in the Bahamas. And there was this other guy that I knew who also had a Gemini catamaran, and we had
Mm.
that guy and I had gone to the Annapolis Boat Show together.
Mm.
on the way down, and we had known each other and I had seen him in the Bahamas too. Anyway, long story short, they found each other and now they're a couple. She's
Oh, wow.
selling her Gemini and they're living on his Gemini and they're
Uh,
here on Martha's Vineyard. So I had them over for dinner and
oh,
another sailor. And it's just so fun to be able to, like bump into people in, these random states
yeah, that is
and
really cool.
have this connection.
Yeah, I would love to experience that. I do feel like when I go up to Lake Superior, even just this is our first season, like I said, up there with our own boat, and it's just talking to my dock neighbors and just kind of shooting the breeze and hearing their stories and sharing stories. And it just, you feel kind of like, I mean, I guess you use like the words you use, tribe. It does feel like you have this
You
sense of
have a little
belonging.
connection, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
good because, for me, when I left my hometown, which is a small town, and I was a teacher here for ever and ever, and everybody knew me,
yeah,
and I knew everybody. Um, I kind of missed that connection. And
yeah.
so now I feel like I'm really getting it back. And we all follow each other online and we stay in touch and kind of keep tabs on each other, which is
Mm,
great.
yeah,
Hey, what are you doing? Where are you going? And we share information, which
yeah.
is also really helpful.
So as a solo sailor, it doesn't sound like you're lonely at all.
No, God, no. As a former school principal, I defy you to find a former school principal that's lonely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is the people business on steroids.
Oh,
And
yeah,
when you're done with that, you really you're okay
yeah,
by yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Some alone time and time is pretty good. Do you have kids?
I don't have any. I have furry four-legged kids.
Oh, okay.
I have 16 of them, so that's what makes
Oh,
boat life a
wow.
little. Yeah, I have a farm, so it
Oh,
makes boat
wow.
life a little tough sometimes because to get away for a long, because it's an 8-hour drive for us to get there, and then our other closer boat is an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not as far. But yeah, it's challenging with the schedule because of the animal care.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway, so yeah, you were asking me about kids. That no, I don't have any human kids.
Uh-huh. Well, human kids are just constantly mom, 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 mom,
Yeah, yeah,
so
very, yeah.
there's no mom on the planet that's gonna like say, I get enough alone time.
What do your kids think about your lifestyle? Are they like,
They're like this. They they don't know what to think.
yeah, do they like to sail?
It's funny, they grew up sailing. They sailed here on the vineyard. They sailed Opties when they were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And just at the neighborhood yacht club, and then they graduated. By the time they were 14, they were up to sailing 420s.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then it kind of fizzled out and they started doing other things. Oh no, one of
Yeah.
them sailed in high school. One of them was on
Mm.
the sailing team in high school.
Oh, cool.
um but my daughters actually played ice hockey.
Oh,
They that consumed them. but
yeah. It's my sister has absolutely, it's not that she's not interested in it, but she just, it's funny. Like it stuck with me my whole life, and I had to work a long time before I got to a point where I could get a boat. But just it never left me inside. If that's what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say. But for her, it's yeah. She just, I mean, she'll go on a boat and she'll enjoy it, but it's not like like I feel like if I didn't have sailing in my life, I feel like I'd be really missing something. It's
Yeah.
significant, occupies a significant part of who I am, I guess, for
Yeah.
lack of a better way of saying it.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the clock because I want to be mindful of your time.
Okay.
And I wanted to, there's so many things I want to ask you, but I definitely don't want to forget about the book.
Uh-huh.
I haven't got my copy yet, but it's on the way. I totally stoked to read it.
Uh-huh.
So tell me about the book a little bit, like what
Okay.
made you want to write this book?
Yeah. So, the worst thing for a sailor, the most dangerous thing a sailor can have is a schedule because you make decisions that are not about safety and weather. They're decisions about your timeline, your deadline.
Yeah.
And when I was teaching online, I would have lessons at specific scheduled times, and I would have to drop the hook and teach a lesson. or I would have to wait in the morning till after the lesson before I could, weigh anchor and get a move on. So it got a little unsafe. And there were times also when I had to choose safety and cancel on people, which was really just not, it just didn't suit me well. I really didn't like the idea of canceling on a kid or canceling on a professional who, needed me to help them with their, presentation or whatever. And I wouldn't be able to do it because the weather wasn't going to allow for me to be able to do it safely. So, so I gave it up. I thought, you know what, I can probably do okay. I have a teacher's pension. I can probably do okay without it. And so I didn't do it for a while, but then I was just sailing alone and I was thinking, this is kind of just selfish. I don't have any kind of contribution. I had always like made a contribution to people in my life. And there I was doing nothing for anybody. So, so I thought, well, what can I do? There's got to be something that I can do that's not schedule dependent. And I thought, well, maybe I can write a book. Maybe I can write a book and use my teaching skills to teach people how to do exactly what I've done. Because I can be very clear. I don't have to use a whole bunch of fancy vocabulary. I can make it easily accessible in a way that most people can't.
Yeah.
And it's simply from having taught, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 8 and 10-year-old kids. You have to be very, very clear and you have to be repetitive and you have to choose words very carefully. And I thought, well, maybe I should write a book. So I wrote a book and the book wrote itself, basically. It was the easiest thing I ever did in my life.
So you
So
you
easy.
never felt like you had writer's block, or because I'm a
No,
writer too, so I would love to one day we have to talk writing too, but
no, that book, because it was really just a narrative of what I had experienced and there were a lot of stories and I hadn't had a chance to tell them to enough people because I was alone. Really wasn't interested in being that social and telling the stories over and over again. So it was a way of being able to tell the stories and at the same time educate the reader so that by the end of the book, the reader would know a heck of a lot more about sailing and how to do it. And it would actually be something that the reader might decide to, take further and go ahead and do it. And if not, then it would hopefully inspire the reader to do some big thing in retirement other
yeah.
than just, more volunteering in the local committees and more, going to the gym or going traveling, because that's tends to be what I see most retired people doing.
Yeah.
They, s-
Yes.
you know,
So the people that you tend to see, because some of the things I hear a lot on the younger generations YouTube sailing channels is that most of the people that they tend to come across are retirees and not younger people. But I feel like in some ways, I don't know if it's because of COVID or what, but it seems like there's this huge shift
Mhm.
with that. It almost seems like it's the opposite now, or maybe that's just because of the way the algorithm is working on my computer. I don't know, but like I said, that's why I
With
was
more
so,
younger
yeah,
families.
yeah, yes.
Well, there's a young family, there was a young family here today. I was talking to them, and they were here last year too. Actually gave them an extra anchor that I had, and they remembered me, of course, and were very thankful, and they had used it and yada yada. But yeah, there are quite a bit of young families, and yeah, it's absolutely because they can work online.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have the capacity to make a living
Mm.
while they are traveling and sailing with kids. And there's enough families doing it where the kids can connect with other sailing family kids.
Yeah. I
So in Georgetown, there were all sorts of families and family activities and kids activities. It was great.
Yeah. again, it sounds like it's another part of that community that you were talking about, that people are sailing, cruising couples that have children, there's a way to connect with. That's what's kind of great about having like the Starlink and things to connect with other
Oh,
cruising
yeah.
couples that have kids. Because
Yeah.
I interviewed this one woman, Suzanne Haywood. She wrote a book about her life growing up aboard. I think the boat was 72 feet, a schooner, and she's our age too. And it was really hard for her because she just had I think a younger brother, and the social things, she just craved having
Yeah.
social interaction with other kids, and that was really
Yeah.
lacking in her.
Yeah.
She spent 10 years doing that.
Uh,
Wave Walker is the name of her book. And by the way, we didn't say the name of your book. Your book is
Young Salt at 60.
yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait. Because that's
Because,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah, forever young. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I do see a lot of older couples, retired couples sailing. The guy is always at the wheel, the woman is
Yeah.
always putting out the fenders. And in most cases, one or the other, usually the guy, has had a lifetime of sailing experience. And that's why they're sort of doing this and living on board and, going along. I have really not seen, I haven't seen many, maybe just two other solo female captains of sailboats living aboard their sailboat and cruising north and south. Maybe two, other than myself.
Yeah.
What I have seen, which is very encouraging, is a lot of women, especially on my way back up north this past time. I've seen a lot of young women in the maritime trades on bigger vessels,
Mm-hmm.
captains of, commercial vessels,
Yeah. Yeah.
things like that. And I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. But
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of women, living aboard their sailboat. And, maybe it's because there's a fear factor related to being boarded by pirates or, something
Yeah.
like that. But I don't see how it's any different in that regard than living in an apartment alone.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, exactly. I know. I don't, I mean, obviously I'm not cruising, and you hear stories about that sort of thing. And but I don't feel like I would worry about that. I mean, you stay away from the places, right? That's where it
Yeah, you
comes.
meet your neighbors and you assess your situation. You have eyes everywhere
Yeah.
um, and you
Yeah. I always tend to feel like, oh, I'm an old lady. Nobody cares about me anymore.
yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be attacking. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that so much.
Uh,
It's more just like being robbed if I'm in
yeah.
impoverished areas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In fact, one time I was really afraid. I had to leave my boat at a marina and head north to see my kids for the weekend. I had to fly to Boston. I left my boat in
Mm,
Florida at a marina, and the marina was a low budget marina because I wasn't interested in staying and having all the amenities or whatever.
right.
I just needed a place to leave it that would be cheap. So the boat next to me, there were a lot of derelict boats in this place. And the boat
Yeah.
next to me was a real derelict boat, and the kid living in it had tattoos and all over his face and no teeth and
Oh, wow. Yeah.
30 years old, and introduced himself to me
Mm,
and looked me in the eye, introduced himself to me, but he also watched me walk into an Uber with my weed
yeah.
bag, leaving
Yeah.
leaving
Yeah.
my home, unattended right next to him. And I thought, oh boy, well, I hope she's okay.
Yeah.
And it turned out that when I got back to the marina, the boat was fine. And I got back early in the day. It was like noon or 1 o'clock, and the marina was closed. And I'm like, I can get out of here and I can catch this current and get out of here and get to my next port if I go now,
Yeah.
if I hustle.
Yeah.
So I am hurrying up to let my lines go, and I stepped onto this not such a great dock. I stepped
Hmm.
onto the top of a piling because it was high tide, and somehow I slipped off the top of the piling. The
Gosh.
piling hit me in the sternum,
Oh
broke
my
my
gosh.
sternum, and I landed in the water,
Oh my gosh.
and my leg was really hurt, and my leg had hit the dock. And the current now is sweeping me under the dock, and there's no ladder. There's just pilings with barnacles, and I couldn't swim to my transom. I wasn't strong enough to swim to my transom, and I'm
Oh my,
screaming, screaming. And
oh
guess
my
what happened?
gosh. That guy saved you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing story. I just got goosebumps. I
Yeah.
did. Wow. See, yeah, that's a good lesson, right? Because
Yeah.
you never know. And well, anyway, that could be a whole nother conversation. I'm just glad that you're okay because
Yeah.
that is really I've fallen in before. I was a kid when it happened, but into a harbor and it was not fun. But that is really scary. I mean, I think if I were a solo sailor, regardless of being man or woman, whatever, I think my biggest fear is getting sick or getting hurt or injured.
Yeah.
That's I think for me
Yeah,
the top.
that's sure. And that's why I love this boat, because all of the lines lead back to the cockpit. I don't have
Yeah,
to go to the mast to horse around with a winch up there or do anything up there.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have flab reefing, and all my reefing lines are back here. And I haven't even flown my spinnaker yet at all,
Mm,
because it
yeah,
involves going to the head,
yeah. I haven't
up the
done
back.
I haven't done mine yet either. And I don't I guess someday, and
Yeah.
I suppose if there comes a point in time when you're passaging and, it necessitates because of the way the wind is going in the direction you want to go, then maybe you'll be motivated to try it. But, I mean, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't learn and we shouldn't use them so we know how to use them when the moment or whatever time presents itself.
Well, yeah, and
But
if you have crew,
yeah,
and
exactly.
light wind, um,
Yeah.
you know,
I don't know. I just, for me at least, I think I just try to, I think it's most important just to not overwhelm myself because there really is a lot to know, and that's the thing with sailing is, and really a lot of things I guess I could say in life too, is that it's a lifelong commitment to lifelong learning.
hmm
Um, but that's one of the things that I think that makes it cool, not
yeah,
boring, exciting. Um,
yeah,
there's just, I don't know, but
scary, but you can get through it,
and you
and
have to give yourself some patience. You have to be patient and not
yeah,
always just to have like these my fault is always having such a high level expectation about what I should be able to do. And then if I can't do that, I get like mad at myself, so I
yeah,
gotta I gotta relax. That's one
it's
thing Jerome.
really easy to go into all that self-loathing stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, because it just
like I'm
takes
never going to
time.
do this. I have no business doing this.
But look at what you've done, in this.
Well, yeah, but okay, so I single-handed this boat all the way to the Exumas in Georgetown, through the Champlain Canal, through New York City, all the way down the coast of the United States, across to the Bahamas, down the whole Exuma chain, and then all the way back up to Martha's Vineyard. And then I did it again. So I did it for 2 winters.
Wow. Yeah.
Yesterday, on my boat, and I was dragging my dinghy with the two painter lines, and I had a lot of line out, like you should when you're dragging your dinghy. And I dropped my hook, and I went to back down on my anchor,
Oh boy.
and I realized a little too late that my lines were back there all along. And sure enough, one of them had gotten wrapped around the prop. And I instantly panicked, instantly thought, I'm going to have to dive down there and, with my mask and snorkel and see if I can unwrap this thing. Um, and, but I'm terrified to do it because I didn't have a spotter. And I just have this thing
Yeah.
about being underwater under the boat without a spotter. is
Yeah.
is just kind of a dangerous thing. I don't know why. I've seen too many movies where people's foot get their foot gets,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe it's not that bad. And because it was only one of the lines.
Mhm.
And I just gently pulled from one side of the boat to the other side of the boat to see if I could get it to move in any direction. And sure enough, I got some movement and I was able to pull it out from the prop by just on
Yeah.
line and getting the line to pull through. But it's like one of those things with dropping the halyard. You have to have the wherewithal to problem solve. You have to assess the situation, which you can only do with a level head.
Right.
So the sooner you get level headed, the better, any situation is going to be. And you're not going to be able to know what's next. A friend of mine had been sailing his whole life and he lost his mast underway at sea because and he had had a recent survey on the boat and one of the chain plates broke
Oh, no.
and the backstay broke.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so the chain plate on the backstay just came undone and he lost his mast. The mast actually broke but in half. But, he had to, figure out how to get the boat back to shore and deal with it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you don't get
yeah.
to know in advance everything
Yeah.
that's going to happen. You try to know as much as you possibly can, and you try to double up, especially single-handed. There's only one of you, so you have to have two. I look at it this way. There's only one of me, so I have to have two of everything. I have to have plan A and plan B for everything because there's just me.
Mhm.
So when I tie my dinghy up at night, I tie two dinghy lines.
Mhm.
Whenever I can double up on anything, I double up on anything because there's
Yeah.
one of me.
Yeah. I love that. That's a really good way to look at that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a little after 4, and again,
Okay.
I could talk to you for ages. There's so many things that I wanted to ask, but maybe you'll grace me with coming on the show another time when you have
Well,
time and we could talk
so
more.
yeah, I wanted to so when you are communicating with your husband and you're on board, you're the
Yeah.
captain and he's the crew.
So this is what's funny. I I'm hesitant to say yes, and the reason why I say that is because in my mind, I always associate the captain as the person at the helm.
Uh,
But that's not typically the case with us. Typically with us, he's at the helm. I do everything else.
uh,
So I'm putting the sails up. I'm trimming the sails. I'm jumping off the dock with the dock lines or doing whatever. And it's weird because you know what, Deborah? I feel kind of like funny saying this, but I think it's that whole role that I had as a kid growing up. Like my dad was at the helm and I was crew. So in my mind, I feel like I know more than my husband does about sailing. And so I'm often saying, okay, this, and I'm like instructing and
right.
telling, I'm
Yeah.
not bossing him around because that's not
Right.
appropriate. And it wouldn't work. He's not,
Right.
I want him to enjoy this, right?
Right. Right.
But I do find oftentimes that I am, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that the captain is always at the helm? I mean, if there's two people,
Well, I mean, that's where I had a lot of problems with my partner that I bought the boat with. Our roles were not clearly defined.
yeah,
And especially with the catamaran because it was his boat. So it was his it was a lot of money invested in that boat.
yeah,
And I knew more about sailing. He knew more about the mechanical aspects of the boat. But
yeah,
as we found out as time went by, he didn't know nearly as much as I thought he knew. I
Yeah.
thought because he was a contractor that he would be a marine mechanic, and that's unfair, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
contractors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, and a marine mechanic, no, he never even knew anything about boats.
Hmm.
So it was all new. Like even like, and I had lived on an island for 35 years. So just by osmosis, I knew things about tide and current and how boats would be docked and how fenders are lined up and how just like intuitively
Yes.
things
Uh-huh.
came much easier for me from having lived on a from having lived on an island and seeing all the boating
Yeah.
around me all the time. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm interested to see how things kind of play out with our boat up on Lake Superior. The conditions are going to be more challenging than we're accustomed to with the inland lake we sail on here in Iowa, where I live, and and that lake I know that lake like the back of my hand or whatever that saying is because that's where I grew up sailing, you know.
yeah.
But one week of every summer, my dad would charter a boat up near the Apostle Islands, which is how I came to want to get back up that way because it's just a magical place to be. I love it
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Um, but the conditions are more challenging. It's
Yeah.
we need to know how to use navionics. We need to know how to look at charts. We need to understand where obstructions are. We need to
Yeah.
understand how to communicate on the
Yep.
VHF. We need to do all these things that we don't do
Yeah.
on a regular basis where we are now, which makes it exciting and new. And but there is a level of intimidation that I feel that I have. Uh,
It's a
you know,
lot, but you can study at night.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you study your navionics the night before
yeah,
and you
exactly.
figure out, where you want to go, how you're going to get there. You look at your windy app and your
Yep, I've got
fixed
that
wind
too.
or whatever, and
Yep.
you come up with a plan. Having been a teacher, you know how to do a lesson plan, right? You're
Yeah,
thinking of your objectives, right? So you want to be
exactly.
able to get to a certain spot. You don't want to run aground. You want
Yeah.
to have somewhat of a sail plan in your mind. Are you going to need to be rigging the preventer? Are you going to be doing, a lot of downwind sailing?
Exactly. Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Um, I always have my preventer and my boom brake where I can set them. They're rigged. I can
Hmm.
set them from the cockpit on my stern cleats
Okay.
without having to leave the cockpit. I can do my boom brake is always on and my preventer is always on. And I just, depending on what tack I'm on, I,
Right.
all I have to do is cleat it off,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
I don't have a preventer yet on my boat, so I need to get one
Yeah.
of those for
Yeah,
sure.
you do.
And I think, speaking of planning, it's like getting back to the whole thing with sailing with a partner too.
Mhm.
I'm like exactly like what you said because of that teaching background for me too, and education, the planning thing. But
Yeah.
my husband is not like that. So
Right.
we can sometimes have like he thinks I'm being overly um I don't think the word would be controlling, but he's happier to just kind of I mean, maybe I don't saying wing it. That sounds a little kind of too loosey goosey too. But I'm on the opposite end. Like I
Right.
want all of these things to be done before
Yeah.
he's like, you need to relax, it's fine. I'm like, no,
Right.
you don't understand. So I think because of my experience with sailing, I'm aware
Right.
of the things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think because he doesn't have that, he
Hmm.
doesn't have that uh it's kind of like almost a burden that I carry in a way. I mean, it's a good burden to carry because it keeps us safe. But
Hmm.
like for him, he doesn't think about some of those things as much. And so it can make it for me in my mind a bit more stressful, I guess. And I need to learn to kind of ease up a little bit on that and trust
Yeah.
in the process and trust in him that
Yeah.
he can do what he
And
needs
then
to do.
together you'll be able to figure out what to do
Yeah.
when it needs to happen,
Yeah.
that you'll
Yep.
be able to problem solve things, together in a crisis.
Do you feel like when you had a partner that you were sailing with and there was a crisis, do you feel like things were did you get through it okay, or did you feel like it was always kind of this thing that just
Oh,
was the
no,
source of
we got
contention?
the crises we got through okay.
Uh-huh.
Remember one time in particular we were going through a lock in Cape
Mm-hmm.
Canaveral, Florida, and there was a tornado warning.
Oh gosh.
The sky was black as could be.
Yeah.
We were getting the last opening of this lock for the night. And we needed to go through the lock so that we could get to the anchorage,
Yeah.
on the other side. And it was with the catamaran, and he had never done a lock before. And I don't know if I had ever done a lock before at that point either.
Mm.
No, I hadn't done a lock before either. But the current was sweeping the catamaran off to starboard. And our goal was to be tying up on the port side of the lock. And we couldn't get the catamaran to move to the port side of the lock. And then he couldn't get the catamaran to not be going toward the door of
Oh no.
the end. So I just kind of moved him out of the way, and I took the throttles
Yeah.
and I got us out of this jam. And
Yeah.
it got us, so that we could tie it. We ended up tying up on the starboard side, which ended up being fine. Um, but it was scary,
Mm-hmm.
because it was looking like we were going to be going barreling straight into the lock doors.
Doors.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
when there's a current and there's a bridge or a lock, it's really challenging. But I will say that in a catamaran, it's a lot easier than it is in a sailboat
so does
because
that have one? It's a single prop on the cat.
no, two,
It's oh, you
two,
do have
two
two.
engines, and that's what
Uh-huh.
makes it easier. Those things can spin on a dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
You turn it like this. You just give the starboard side a little reverse and
Yeah.
uh, the port
So
side
no
a little forward, and boom, you're 90 degrees to starboard.
no bow thrusters then on that boat you had?
You don't need them because
Because
you
of
have
the
that kind of maneuverability.
how about on your boat? Do you have bow thruster on
No,
her?
I do not have bow thrusters. And
Yeah.
that's what made it really tough. And even now, it's tough for me to hold my position in a heavy wind,
Yeah, I was working on that with Jerome. He
because
made go ahead.
as soon as the wind catches the bow,
Yeah.
it spins me. And
Yeah.
my boat loves to just spin when the wind catches the bow. Even at anchor, I'm like the wiggliest boat in the anchorage like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things I want to practice, just getting more of a feel for how our boat, because when he was with us, we had 3 days that we spent with him, and each day the wind conditions were different. And
Hmm.
so we had an opportunity to see
That's
what,
great.
how, like, how the
Yeah, it's
boat
really good.
behaved and
Uh-huh.
what we needed to do in order to get her to do what we wanted her to do.
That's
Um,
great.
but I do need to, I need to, like he said, his parting words were practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
But I can't get there as frequently as I'd like to. So that's part of the problem again. But at any rate,
Well, you could just take the leap and go all in.
well, actually, we have been looking at property up there, and my husband is, thinking about retiring at some point in this near future here, and we're trying to figure out how to. The only problem that I can see with Lake Superior in that area, as much as I love it, is boy, oh boy, it's really cold in the winter. And, the season is a little shorter as a result of that. But it just, that area, again, it's just such a magical place. If you ever have an opportunity to visit, the Apostle Islands and
Yeah,
anywhere in Lake
I've
Superior,
heard
really.
it's really, really beautiful. I've heard that it's really clear, clear water.
It is.
Uh,
It's like I've never been to the Caribbean, but when I was a kid and I remember anchoring out and being able to see all the way down. I don't know how deep the water was back then, but and the sand was like pure white and
mhm.
yeah, it's just a really yeah, I can't it's a very special place to me. So
The sand is pure white in the Apostle Islands?
in this particular area where we were, it
Wow,
was yeah, that this anchorage it
that's
was a
cool.
island called Stockton Island in the Apostle
Uh-huh.
Island group and yeah, it was, but that was also 30 some years ago. But that's my goal. My goal this summer is we would like to sail there from where we are now, where our boat is. And it's
How far is it?
nautical mile wise, I'm not sure. I have to look at the chart to see, but I talked to some of my dock neighbors and depending upon the wind and which way it's coming from, of course, right? It's going to dictate how soon you can get there. But I want to say probably it's not an overnight sail, but probably somewhere between maybe 7 to 12 hours, depending upon the wind. And
Ah,
we'll have to see how the boat.
mistake.
Yeah, I mean it would be good to be able to do that this summer. That would be like the next goal for me for where
Yeah.
we are is to sail from where we are because it's a little dicey with um you know, making sure that we don't hit rocks because there's a lot of rocks. But if we stick to where the
They're
channel
marked
is
on the
and
chart. They
look
would
on,
be on the chart.
yep, I gotta just get my subscription to Navionics. I'm in that little trial,
And
whatever.
you put your iPad on like one of these things.
Yeah,
You know, and then you really don't even need a chart plotter. I have a chart plotter. The purpose of my chart plotter is so that I can see other boats be
yeah.
that I can see other boats on the chart plotter before I can see them visually. And that is
Oh, yeah,
important at night offshore
yeah,
with regard to tankers, cruise ships, cargo ships, that
yeah,
stuff. I want to be able to see them before on the chart. So
yeah,
and I can also tap on them and I can find out the name of the boat, how fast, in case I have to hail them, I want to hail them by name. I can find out
yeah.
how fast they're going and I can find out what direction they're going.
I have a chart plotter on my boat too, but it's interestingly and oddly, it's installed after the tiller. So I don't really quite
Philip.
get that. You're at the helm and then you have to look behind you and down and it's a little
Uh-huh.
kind of awkward. So Jerome, he definitely recommended like I
Yeah,
have
the
an
iPad.
iPad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause it does, and then it has the alarm too. So it lets us know. So I have AIS receiving, but I don't transmit. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so these are all new tools for me and the
Yep.
first mate to learn how to use. But I
And
think
your
like
AIS is Bluetooth probably. Did you
it
just get,
actually is, you know what? It's integrated into our VHF. It's like
yeah, so is
one,
mine. So is
yeah.
mine, but you can get it Bluetooth or not Bluetooth. And mine
Okay.
is not Bluetooth, and that was a mistake. I shouldn't have been so cheap. I should have
I
gotten.
I have to say ours probably is not. I when I had the boat surveyed, I don't know, I don't remember the surveyor mentioning anything about that feature. I'd have to look back through the manuals in my boat file to see if maybe it does, but I have a feeling it probably doesn't.
Yeah.
But you think it would be a good way to go having that then, huh?
Uh
The
the
Bluetooth.
the Bluetooth. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Because then what you can do is you can take your iPad down into the cabin at night. Well, you're not really living on your boat, but you can take your iPad off the boat and do all your planning.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure that stuff all out because, like I said, I don't have a clue how to use any of those tools. I mean, but I think the good news is that where I am, I have access to a lot of help. We sailed a lot last year with the company out of Bayfield, Wisconsin, and we got to know the couple that owned the company really well, and one of their captains too. And so and they're close by, so I know if I had questions, I'm sure they could help. But I feel like it's kind of the next natural progression for us with where we're going. And then eventually, we do talk about maybe moving out east, and Oriental is definitely on our radar because that's the
Oh,
sailing capital of North Carolina, from what we
yeah,
hear. I have a friend, a
yeah,
forum friend who's there and loves it.
yeah.
But
Oriental or Beaufort.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
But actually,
hopefully,
there's a lot of places. There's Oriental, there's Beaufort, there's Wrightsville. Yeah.
yeah. So one day maybe we'll be out that way. And it would be cool to run into you on the water. I would
Oh,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Or maybe
I you'll I think you'll end up doing it. I really do. I think at some point you just have to say enough is enough, and we're just going to do it, and we'll figure it out as we go along.
I think so too, because as we're a fan of saying we're not getting any younger, me and my husband are always saying that. And I will
Mhm.
tell you, I definitely, I don't know about you, but I've tried to be kind to my body over the years as I've aged, but I'm just going to be honest. My
Yeah.
body is not what it was when I was 20, when I was 30, or when I was 40,
Oh
or
yeah. No, I don't move around. I don't move around like a spring chicken on the boat. I'm slower. I have to be slower. I slow down. Like when there's an emergency, I tell myself just go slow.
yeah,
Take it slow. Because that's when I forget to hold on.
yeah, one
Or
hand on the
that's
boat.
when,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm running
yeah.
downstairs to go flip the I have an electric windlass, and sometimes when I'm in, for a number of reasons, it'll throw the breaker,
Hmm.
which is good because it protects the windlass when there's, too much load on the windlass. But I have to run all the way back down into the cabin and flip the breaker.
Yeah,
But I have to do it slowly because
yeah,
it's a situation like that, like me falling into the water off the dock because I'm
yeah.
going too fast and I'm 3 steps ahead of myself.
I do that too.
Oh,
I've noticed more now that I actually did this. This sounds crazy, but I was leaving my house one day. I threw the garage up to back my truck out. Um, but I couldn't put it all the way up because I had a cantankerous, one of my dogs is anyway, he wasn't being very cooperative. So I didn't put it up all the way.
yeah.
And then I forgot that I
I'm going
hadn't.
to show you this. I'm sorry. I just want
Oh,
to.
oh, wow. How about that? What boat is that?
That is called the Alabama, and
Oh,
it is owned by well, it was owned by the people that owned the Black Dog, the famous Black Dog
uh,
restaurant on Martha's Vineyard.
oh,
Yeah.
wow. How big is that boat? Do you know?
It goes out every night for a sunset cruise, and
Oh,
they'll raise the sails.
they
Uh,
just had the Tall Ship Festival in Duluth. And I'm all bummed that we missed it because we're heading up there this coming weekend actually. But
mm,
yeah, I would have loved to have seen all those big tall ships.
it's probably 100 feet, including the bowsprit.
Oh, wow. Those
Yeah.
are square rigged or schooner.
That's a schooner. There's another boat. The sister ship has a black hull, and that is a square rig. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I just was going to say though, I second you on being slowing things down and being very deliberate about what you're doing, especially when we're hurrying and rushing, because I've noticed I've gotten myself I've actually injured myself pretty badly too because of just rushing
yeah,
and not really paying as close. I mean, not that that necessarily is always an age-related thing, but I will say that it has happened to me more so as I've
yeah.
aged.
And balance gets harder. It's
Yeah.
just this crazy thing. It's harder to balance yourself. So,
Yeah.
I do certain things to work on that.
I was gonna ask you, yeah, if you
I
did.
I
Hmm.
run about 5 miles a day, like 5 days a week,
Oh, that's awesome. Good for
whenever I
you.
can. Yeah. I mean, here I'm pretty much on the vineyard in this area for the summer, so I can do that.
Yeah.
Um, I lift weights.
Mm-hmm.
to just try to keep my arms strong. Cause, there's
Oh,
times when for safety reasons, I have to be able to pull a load, carry a
oh
load,
yeah.
the wind or the current, even
Well,
just
the anchor,
the
pulling up
day.
the anchor. Oh, you have a
Well, that
windlass though.
I do that with a windlass.
Yeah.
However, there was a time once when I had to do it cranking it by hand.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
very difficult. And because I have an all chain road. And
Yeah.
um, and then I do ab stuff every day. And
That's awesome.
yeah,
You
but
know what I did is I bought a kayak
that's
and
fantastic for your arms.
I
Yeah.
bought this, it's a 10.5 foot kayak. I just started getting into it this summer and I'm going to tell you what, it's a game changer for me because I can friggin' do everything by my friggin' self.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
empowering. I can load it
Yeah.
into my truck.
Yeah.
I can take it out of the truck. I can get it in
Yeah.
the water by myself, take it out of the water. And it's just, it makes me feel strong, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I'm getting stronger as I use it more. So
Absolutely. I
yeah.
had one in Vermont and there's a girl who crewed for me she's 19. She saved up enough money to buy herself a little sailboat, but she's got a
Oh, right
dinghy
on.
without an engine. And that kid's got to row to go to work every day. She's got to row like pretty far. Like like I would say, I don't know, a quarter of a mile.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and if it's blowing, if we've got gusts,
Yeah.
it's tough, but she's getting really strong.
Yeah. But it is important to have strength, dexterity, balance. This guy I know on
Absolutely.
the compact forum,
Yeah, you have
he's
to.
got a little cat rig boat. He's 73 and he was telling me that balance is his biggest enemy right now, and
Yeah,
that he works with a physical therapist
yeah,
because he wants to keep sailing.
yeah,
So he's got to do what he has to do to keep his balance
yeah,
healthy. So
exactly, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for
yeah.
me. And
Thank you. I am
I
just, like
would,
I said, I could talk to you forever. I wish I could
I'd
come
love,
sail with you. I would
I
love
would,
to meet you in person. And I know I would learn so much from you.
well,
I
let's
can't
stay
wait to
in
read your
touch.
book.
Let's stay in
Yeah.
touch. Yeah. And I'd love to get in touch with Jerome too.
Yeah. We should get you on his show because
Yeah, I'd love to be on his show.
he's got a big audience and I'm sure he would love to hear your story.
Yeah.
And I'll reach out to him. Do you follow him on Instagram?
I do follow him on Instagram, but
Okay.
if he can contact me, that would be great. Feel free to share my contact
Yeah.
information, my email, share
Yeah,
that.
I will do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And speaking of Instagrams and all that good online cyberspace stuff, people wanting to learn more about you and find you, what's the best way for people to do
The
that?
best way would be Instagram.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's your
And
handle
it's
is Young.
Young Salt 60.
Okay, yep, that's right.
So it's
Okay,
just
cool.
Young Salt 60. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Awesome, Shell. Thank you so
Okay, fair
much.
winds,
All
and it was
right.
just
Fair winds to you.
my
All right.
pleasure to have you on the show.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Deborah Hammett, solo sailor and author of Young Salt at 60, Becoming Better Than Retired. Be sure to check out Deborah's Instagram at Young Salt 60. That's Young Salt 60, where you can see and learn more about Deborah's adventures. If you are enjoying my podcasts, please consider liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to keep bringing you stories from others out there with a passion for getting out on the water. And don't forget to come raft up with me at passagesfromtheheart.wordpress.com. Until next time, fair winds.